everybody, welcome. My name is Alex Bennett from Milwaukee Music Lessons, and today we're going to cover a unsung hero of techniques when it comes to guitar. We're going to talk about economy picking. We're going to talk about what it is, how it differs from its much more popular brother, alternate picking, and go over some examples and some demonstrations of where these might be useful. So first, before I even explain economy picking, I want to show off a few examples where economy picking is very, very useful and very, very helpful. Here's a few. So there's a few demonstrations about economy picking and where economy picking is used. So how about we actually spend the time to explain what economy picking is? Economy picking is basically saying if we are moving in a direction, like let's say down, and the next string also happens to be down, we should continue moving in that downward direction unless the string that follows it is moving in an opposite direction. Basically, we always want our follow through to be moving towards the next note, right? So here's a quick, easy example. Let's say that I was going to take a G chord, and in my G chord here, I wanted to move and just kind of go all the way down from the low E string up to the high E string. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to do alternate picking there, alternating from down, up, because all of the notes that are going to be following are simply going to be moving in a downward direction, right? It would make much more sense to say go down, 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 instead of a much more convoluted down, up, down, up, down, up. I mean, it's a good exercise, but in reality, when you're playing a song, you're trying to do the thing that is it's the least likely to give you mistakes. Has the least amount of motion possible, right? Hence the term economy picking, right? We're trying to be economic. We're trying to be efficient with our movements and our motions. So let's look at that at a more practical example. Let's use one of the songs that I use in the demonstration, More Than a Feeling by Boston. In this one, we begin with an arpeggio utilizing a D chord with a little bit of a D sus4 mixed in there. The way that we start this is by doing an arpeggio of a D and a D sus4 chord. We start with arpeggiating. We're going from the D string to the B to the G to the high E down to the G. And if you watch closely with the way that I just picked that, I alternated back and forth between down, up, down, up, down, up. But that wasn't alternate picking that was making me make those choices. It was actually economy picking that was having me make those choices, right? With that first note that I played, if I do a downstroke on the D string, where I end up following or where I end up landing is right next to the B string with my follow through. So the downstroke choice is more about where I'm ending up in the next note, right? If I come back, since I'm coming back to the G on the next note, it only makes sense that I do an upstroke on this B string because my follow through leaves me close to where the G is supposed to be. So I go down, up. Now the next one here, we're going to be moving from G to the high E string, so I should go in a downward motion, leaving my follow through close to the high E string, upstroke, that's the right note, up to the G, downstroke, And now finally we have 3 notes in a row playing this D chord that go from the high E to the B to the G. So in this instance, just like we did with our G chord arpeggio at the beginning of this demonstration, we're going to go with an upstroke all the way through those 3 strings, because it only makes sense since that's where the next notes are all going to be, right? So altogether, here's what that first measure looks like. After that, we have a couple more chords. We have a C add 9 followed by a G over B and then just a regular G chord. So here what we're going to do is we're going to start with a downstroke on our A string, and then we're going to come back to the high E and the B, and since we have 2 notes again in a row that are all moving in an upward direction, we're going to do an upstroke for both of those. Then we're going to move down to the 2nd fret of the A string. We're going to do a downward motion again, coming back to the high E and B strings, again with 2 more upward motions. And then finally we have 2 notes left. We're going to go to the 3rd fret of the low E string, and then coming back to the 3rd fret of the B string on an upstroke. So that section again looks what it should sound like. All right, so there's a great demonstration utilizing kind of more of an acoustic or a little bit more of a classic rock vibe, a bit of a country vibe, but are there other places where economy picking is useful? Well, the answer to that question is most definitively yes. And in fact, one of its more popular techniques was given a very special name because of how it looks, and that is called sweep picking. Sweep picking is very popular in hard rock, heavy metal, especially certain styles of metal. It's used quite frequently. There are some guys out there who are quite proficient at it. Yngwie Malmsteen comes to mind, but it's mostly reserved for electric guitars. So I'm going to take a second and switch over to my electric. There we go, much better. Okay, so let's talk about an arpeggio here. I'll give a brief demonstration of what a sweep pick looks like. So in this case, I did a very small 3-string arpeggio. I was doing a F sharp minor 7 arpeggio here, and the fretting for that looks something like what I'm going to put here on the bottom of the screen. What I'm effectively doing here is we're going across the 3 strings starting with the G, and we're doing a sweep down from 11, 10, 9, and then we up pick, or depending on who you are, some people like to pick the first one and then pull off. Some people like to hammer on and then start picking on the way back to going from 9, 10, 11. But basically what we're doing here is we're doing an extreme version of a economy pick, going from G to the high E and then E back up to the G. So when you get this technique right, it should sound nice and smooth. But it is going to take you a while because it is a very precise technique. And I know this one was very, very difficult for me when I first did it. I think I probably spent a good 2 or 3 weeks of practicing it, probably a good 30 minutes a day or more just to get this one right. And this is one of the simpler ones too. It gets even more complicated when you start getting into 4 or 5 string arpeggios. You can start adding other cool stuff, like taps and slides and all sorts of things to it, transitioning between multiple arpeggios. I'm definitely not as good at it as I used to be, but I still got some chops when it comes to it. anyways, there you have it, a brief rundown of economy picking and what it can do for you. Please let me know if you have any questions. Always looking for, video suggestions or ideas or questions on anything that I performed on in the videos. So appreciate you guys tuning in. My name is Alex Bennett, and I will see you guys in the next video.